Hey everybody, it's Stippling Vaughn, and this is Stippling Saturday, showing you the work that I'm still working on. It's the fan art piece for the Aaron Lepresti Wraith of God series. It's available on Indiegogo. The link to the comic book is in the description. This is important that you use the link in the description. No, do I get anything out of this? No, but this is one of those books that's being shadow banned on Indiegogo. And because it's being shadow banned on Indiegogo, if you look on Indiegogo under Wraith of God, Blood Hunters, you do not get the active campaign. Okay? So I wanted to continue the subject I was talking about last Saturday, being about identity and why manga is winning. Okay? I got this book. Okay? This is from back in the 80s. Okay? It's called Gray. Okay? And you can see how the book has its style. Okay? A lot of speed lines, a lot of heavy use of zipatone. Okay? The heavy use of zipatone and the stylized faces, okay? This is manga's identity. Okay? They have a set style. Okay? And it's still used relatively today. Now, other books that they had was Akira, which I did get Akira. I don't have it to show you, but I do have. But Akira was one of those books that that was available. But I wanted to put my money where my mouth was. Okay, so this is one called Succubus and Hitman. Okay, and you take a look at it. Okay, still a much more mature style than Gray, but it's still relatively the exact same style. Still a heavy use of the zipatones. Okay? So, again, manga is maintaining its style. I want to go even further. So I got this one too, and I'm reading this one and I'm enjoying it. Again, it has a different style than that Succubus and Hitman, but, okay, you look at it, okay, it still looks relatively the same, even though the artist is different. Artist has a relatively different style. Okay, it still has that look. It still has that look and feel of manga. And then the last one I got when I was there, I kind of was like going down the rabbit hole, and I saw this one. Now this one I thought, oh, this one's going to be a funny one. Okay, Booty Royale, and okay, just off the cover, and we got a girl in an action pose, big ass titties, and a crotch shot. Look at this. Okay, I can't show you really any pages other than a few. Okay, but again, relatively the same style. Okay, same style. Heavy use of zipatone. Okay, so those are manga books. Remember, manga is top of the top of the line when it comes to book sales. Okay, when it comes to comic book sales, manga is the king. Okay, and when I look at these books, I can see why it's king, because you can go from a fantasy fiction like this one here, okay, to the Succubus, Hitman, to the Booty Royale. Stories are completely different. Technically, the genre of the story is completely different. But there's a consistency in the art style. Manga has its identity. Okay? You don't have an identity within Marvel and DC. Okay? Shane Davis the other night, he was doing a podcast on his own, and Shane Davis was talking about how Marvel, if you look at DC, now the reason why DC's used a lot is because Shane, even though he worked for Marvel and DC, the majority of the work that he did was for DC. Okay? So he got a lot of the inside track, inside know. Okay? Information that the average person wouldn't know, but even the average fan who's been a fan for a long period of time can put the pieces together. Okay? But he has the inside track, he has the inside knowledge from his time working at DC. And he was talking about how if you go to Target or Walmart, okay, and you buy a Superman t-shirt, Wonder Woman Dixie plates, a Batman candy bar, okay, it's all got that retro look to it. That is the style that sells. That is DC's identity, okay. Perfect example of going with the current style is, remember how like Jose Luis Garcia Lopez and George Perez, that is, and for the longest time was, you could call them the DC house style. Okay. Then the Image guys came along and they left Marvel. They went over to DC and said, hey, we're not going to work for you, but we're just going to let you know we're starting our own company. And the editors and creators and control were like, would you know that we have a new program giving creators a creative, not control, but like they get a piece of the pie. And as the story goes, Todd McFarlane goes, how many artists and creators were involved in coming up with this new policy that you have? And who was answered with the crickets, and he goes, exactly. And they walked out the door and they formed Image. Okay. Image, when they came on the scene, and first when they started expanding to not just Rob Liefeld doing his book Youngblood and Jim Lee doing Wildcats, when they expanded, okay, they wanted artists that drew like them. And it changed things, because now for Marvel and DC to be competitive, they had to have artists that were reminiscent of those styles. Okay? The perfect example of this is Mike Deodato. He's a Brazilian artist, and he has an agent. And the agent told him bluntly, he goes, look, you draw this style. This is the popular style in the United States for doing comics. Okay? So he had a style that was very similar to Jim Lee's. And he did a lot of work, and he got a lot of work because he had that style that was similar to Jim Lee. Brett Booth has a style that's very similar to Jim Lee. He got a look. He's still getting a lot of work because he has a style that's very dynamic. Okay, has a lot of those noodly lines, which he still to this day does a lot of. Okay, and DC and Marvel, to stay competitive, they wanted these artists to have that Image style and look. Now, once the cracks started to show in Image, and they weren't the powerhouse that they were, because sales started to drop. And the sales didn't drop for them. The sales were dropping for everybody. Sales were dropping for Marvel and DC. Big difference between Marvel and DC was they were on their own. They had a central unifying leadership. Whereas Image had broken into different houses. You had the Extreme Studios, you had Wildstorm Studios, you had Top Cow. Okay? And as a result of this, first thing Marvel and DC started to do was get rid of that style. They wanted those artists, like, okay, you were doing a lot of work with this Jim Lee style. We don't want you to do that. Give us a different style. Okay, you take a look at Deodato's art style now is completely different. In fact, his art style has changed multiple times since he landed on the scene back in the 90s. Now, here's where I just don't get it. Okay, if you are adopting a style that's popular and is selling books, why aren't you making it a house style? Jim Lee had an army of artists with his style. Okay? DC basically bought Jim Lee because they bought Wildstorm Studios when he put it up for sale. They bought Wildstorm Studios. They wanted Jim Lee. They didn't want Jim Lee working for the competition because they knew what the Marvel sales would be if he went back to Marvel. So they hired him. And they gave him a significant position. He still has a significant position. Okay? What I don't understand is if Jim Lee already had an army of artists who drew a style similar to him, it would make sense to bring all those artists over to DC and make Jim Lee's style the new identity of DC Comics. But we're not seeing that. Now, when you go into a comic book store and you look at the, and this isn't really no necessarily against some of these artists are very talented, but a lot of these artists, their style is shit. DC has absolutely no identity anymore. Okay? And it's showing with their sales. If they wanted to continue to tell these uber progressive stories, they could. If they maintained a high level of artwork. The level of artwork coming out of DC and the artwork coming out of Marvel is so inferior compared to the 80s and to the 90s and to the early 2000s that they want to blame us, the fans, for not supporting them. Well, give the fans what they want. You guys are still selling the Jose Superman. You're still selling the George Perez Wonder Woman on t-shirts. But yet, if they're selling like hotcakes, why not get a George Perez-like artist or tell the talent you have? You need to start drawing like George Perez. You need to start drawing like Jose. Because remember, these artists work for you, which means you decide how they draw. Okay? You have a really shitty page rate. Does that mean that you're going to allow a shitty, inferior artwork to come through? The editors need to go to Art School 101 to see what is good and what is bad. So they can go and go, look, I don't care if you're only making $25 a page. If you're only making $25 a page, it better be, if you want to continue to get more work, and maybe we'll raise your page rate up to $35 an hour, you need to be giving us this level of artwork. You're not giving us this level of artwork, so guess what? We will find someone else who will give us that level of artwork. But they're not. Okay? Nothing is more infuriating than watching bad artwork sit on the shelves, gathering dust at the local comic book store. Okay? You had an identity. You've lost that identity. You could have replaced that identity with a whole new identity. But no, instead, you're pissing it away. Okay? You still have Ivan Reyes doing work for you. Okay? Ivan Reyes should be doing whatever big ass multi-character book series that you're doing, whatever the event series is. Okay? He needs to be doing that book. Okay? I know he's still working for you. You got him doing like a limited detective comics. So you got him basically doing a Batman story. Okay? Did he get a start? Did he make his name for you? Was he making you a shitload of money? doing Batman? No, he was making a shitload of money by doing Green Lantern, by doing the big group books. You have an event going on the Lazarus Planet, and are you having him there so you can really spotlight all of your characters and awesome, great artwork, and that way you can slip in your agenda? No. Okay? You're not. And this isn't against the artists they have doing the Lazarus Planet. I personally didn't care for it when I saw it on the shelf. I looked at it and I was like, this is the artist they're using. Okay. And again, I'm not faulting any artist. I'm not faulting any writer. I am faulting the company that's allowing this to happen. Okay? Everybody wants to pick on and call out individuals, but they don't want to call out the company. Okay? Jimmy Lee is causing these problems. Jimmy Lee is the reason why people are not going to comic book stores and are not buying these books. Okay? They just came out with a chart showing sales. Okay? DC and Marvel. Okay? They're like, what, 7th and 8th now? And yet, comics are doing fine. No, they're not. Jim, you got to do something. Either turn this around, take ownership of what's going on, or quit. Okay? Same thing goes with CB Sabosti. Okay? These guys need to either get on the horse and change things to start making money, or quit. Quit and let someone else take the reins. Because if you're making your money off of the stuff from the 80s, okay, you're not doing it right. Okay? You should be putting out quality product that rivals the stuff from the 80s and 90s. But no, you're not. Marvel pissed away the opportunity to make their house style the Jim Lee style when he was doing the X-Men. Okay? You take a look. You could tell that he was starting to influence all the other artists in Marvel when he was doing the X-Men. Okay? But the kinks in the armor showed at Wildstorm, they're like, nope, get rid of all this style. We want get rid of all these artists. We don't want that style. Why? Because we're still butthurt because he left, and we're still jealous of all of their success. And that's what I'm seeing right now with all of the detractors and the people that are saying like, ew, anti independence, anti CG. Guess what? What's the number one thing that Comicsgate is doing? Their identity is diversity of idea and and giving the fans, their backers, what they want. Providing a product that the fans want. That's their identity. And they have a very diverse styles. But even then, you take a look at it like, Aaron Lopresti, Graham Nolan, Andy Smith, okay, all those guys still have that reminiscent house style. And not just Aaron Lopresti having a book available in Indiegogo. Graham Nolan has his Ghosts of Matacumba Key, and Aaron Lopresti has his Korath. I'll include all of their I'll include all of them, all of their campaigns. I'll include their links in this video. So, but that's like I said, why is manga winning? Because they have an identity. They still have their identity from even when they first started, and they haven't deviated away from it. Whereas Marvel and DC, no identity whatsoever. And once you lose your identity, it's so hard to get it back. So, best thing of all is that once all these movie deals and all of these Netflix deals dry up, okay, manga is strong enough that it can rely on just the book sales. They don't need these movie deals to survive. Marvel and DC, they can't. I would be very surprised once the superhero movie genre dries up, whether these companies that have been around almost 100 years uh, shutter their doors because they're owned by bigger companies, and they're going to look at it and go, "No, you're not making us any money. We've got writers that can. We've got the IPs. We can just hand this to a writer. We don't care if it matches what was put in the books. We haven't been caring about what you guys put in the books for years. You don't have a place here in our company." And then once that happens, the American comic book industry will only be independents. And at that point, it'll come down to, why are you anti-CG? You're basically anti-books. You're anti-literacy. So, hey, that's it for today. Remember, life is stressful, and that's why you just take it all one dot at a time.